So my name is Timothy Goode, and I'm a canon for Congregational Discipleship and Nurture at York Minster. So I'm one of the residentiary canons who minister there. And my link to the topic of this book is that it comes out of my own lived experience as a disabled person. I've lived with disability all my life, and I've been permanently disabled since my mid-20s. And so this book has really come out of reflecting on what does it mean to be made in the image and likeness of God in the light of suddenly finding yourself permanently disabled. So the book is seeking to address why the church discriminates. And speaking through or writing through my own lived experience of working and worshipping within sacred buildings, I started to note that the actual buildings themselves were preaching a certain anthropology. And I was fascinated by that. And exploring that, I started to recognize that when the church moved from becoming an oppressed sect into actually becoming the imperial religion of Rome, it then not only took on power, but it also moved into the very buildings of imperial Rome, their town halls and their basilicas, which themselves preach a Greco-Roman hierarchical anthropology. And I started to recognize that the church itself had therefore started to actually take on board over time that Greco-Roman anthropology and lose that anthropology of the risen body. So what I mean about Christian heritage in this context is that all of our sacred buildings are places of memory over time. The stories and the opinions and the views of generation upon generation upon generation of users who themselves have then projected that into the building. So they are the stories and the values of each and every time. Now, in understanding and naming those different stories, it liberates us to then ask the question, so what is our story going to be? What do we want to leave behind? What are our values? What is our understanding of the Christian faith that we want to leave? So I'm hoping that in this context, it will actually liberate people to take risks, to be brave, and to actually own where we are and leave our legacy for future generations. The process of writing this book came out of years of thinking, years of reflecting, and through having done lots of talks over time on it. And I wrote it very quickly. I wrote the book in about 3 months. But in that very condensed period of activity, it only deepened my understanding of this and also the importance of this for the church. And I guess it broadened the reach of it. The cover, which I'm holding here, was painted especially for this book by my cousin. And my cousin is Alex Merry. And when I was thinking about the cover, I wanted something that was really, really striking, that would capture the eye and draw people in, that spoke to the themes of the book. And so I had the idea of a kintsugi Christ, kintsugi being that Japanese art of broken porcelain being put together with gold and actually being more valuable in that state than in its original, because it's storied and not static. So I spoke to Alex and explained the whole concept, that I wanted it to be a Middle Eastern man at the time of Jesus' resurrection. So it's the risen Jesus, and yet it's kintsugi. And so it is showing the breaking nature of the risen body. I love the quote from Leonard Cohen's song Anthem, which goes, "There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." And that is exactly what this cover is seeking to portray. I also wanted the face of Christ to be really staring directly to us personally. And I wanted the face to be one that betrayed the lived experience of trauma and suffering, but was also a face that was gentle and kind. So, and I was absolutely astonished with what she has achieved. The problem is now the cover of the book is so extraordinary that the actual content has to do some serious heavy lifting to match it. But that's wonderful. I mean, I have the original now on my wall at home, and it is quite extraordinary. So my hope is that the reader of Breaking Not Broken will be taken on a journey of understanding how the church shifted its anthropology from a risen body anthropology actually into an idealized norm anthropology. I believe that this is something that the church has never actually named and addressed, but the implications for the church in its own theologies, I think, are deeply significant and may well be the reason, or one of the primary reasons, why it discriminates and has discriminated. So my hope is that through the reading of this book, the church will enter into a deeper conversation about its past, about its legacy of discrimination, and also to better understand why it discriminates. And my hope is that through reading this, the church will discriminate far, far less and be more open to being truly the body of Christ.